Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that asks the question, where do you get the biggest bang for your buck? I am on the Isle of Wight for once. Those of you who listen to the show will know about this, that I'm usually in the Midlands, but this week, as it happens roughly about once a month, my name is Tosin, I'm on the Isle of Wight. And with me here is...
I'm Shaun.
Yes, this is Shaun. And also, Sharon is not quite here yet. So Sharon will be... so we hope that she's going to be busting in through the doors and joining us very soon. But we are once again recording in the cinema where we all first met. And this is a cinema that is, at the moment, Shaun, you can feel it getting closer. We are living about, I don't know what, like 5 hours away from a world in which Avengers Endgame is released.
That's right. I have actually got my ticket. I've got my ticket, and it's tonight.
It's tonight.
Yeah,
You're going for the midnight showing.
See how we feel.
We'll see. It might be a bit later than all of our bedtimes.
Yeah.
It might be a little too late after all our bedtimes. But yeah, we're going to go see that. And yes, it's going to be out. Some horrible professional critics have already seen the film.
Really?
I know, they've already seen the film, and so obviously they get to see it the day before and they start releasing all what's the thing we do on this show? Critiques, reviews. That's it. What we do on this show, reviews. They start releasing all the reviews on this show. And this theater, this cinema, which at the moment is quite sleepy. You'd say it's quite sleepy. They are expecting it to be mad tonight. I remember I was here for the Infinity War midnight screening, and that was just crazy. It was kind of like people everywhere. You're like, I never knew this cinema could be like this. And I know that they're already girding their loins, they're expecting madness. And by the time we finish recording this, the beginnings of that madness might begin to trickle into the cinema.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a couple of different outfits, a couple of different people in cosplay. It's going to be good, but I've been avoiding pretty much everything about this film.
Oh, right. So you haven't seen any of the reviews then?
No, I haven't seen any of the reviews.
That's good. I try not to before I see a movie.
I don't want to see any reviews. I was telling you yesterday how I blocked all these words on Twitter. I've blocked Avengers on Twitter. I've blocked Endgame on Twitter. I've blocked Iron Man. I've blocked Captain. I don't want to hear anything that has any of these people in it on Twitter. In fact, I might just switch off my phone. Because I'm not seeing it until midday tomorrow, and I might just switch off my phone. So, good Lord. But on the radio earlier today, I heard people talking and they were saying a little bit about, oh yeah, Avengers Endgame, expect to be the biggest film of the year, all that kind of stuff. And it is going to be massive.
It's going to be massive, I think.
It is going to be absolutely massive.
Will it be Avatar, do you think?
I don't know.
No, I don't know either.
I don't know. I think because Avatar was a very singular thing, and I think because essentially there's some people who I think are dead set against Marvel and dead set against anything Avengers, and they are just going they're sort of like party line just to say it's going to be rubbish. So I think no matter what happens, they're going to just sort of sit back and go, no, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Disappointment.
Yeah, they're going to say that. Even without seeing the film, they're going to sit back and they're going to say that. And I think also with this, I think there are some things in this film that might be divisive, because, there's no way around it. This is one of the few times where, usually if you have a whole bunch of characters and nobody dies, you're like, oh, that was rubbish. Game of Thrones is coming to an end this year, and if everybody makes it to the end, people are going to be like, well, that was rubbish. That was a bit of a cop-out. And this is, but with Avengers, it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, some people there needs to be consequences. There needs to be actual consequences for this story to have any credibility. But at the same time, you're like, but I don't want any of them to go. It's like, I don't want any of them to go anywhere. I want them to stay around. I want them to continue being my friends. So we'll see. I'm not expecting, essentially, I've more or less told myself, it's probably going to be a disappointment, because I think if I start getting excited and I hype it up too much in my head, I wouldn't even enjoy watching it.
That's it, because you'll be able to find stuff.
Yeah. I wouldn't even.
I'm pretty much, it's really funny because I'm like this. With Miss Marvel, I was Captain Marvel, so I don't know why I call her Miss Marvel.
I think you're just showing your age a little bit, because probably. She was originally called Miss Marvels in the comics,
And I was really, really looking forward to that, and it turned out to be a bit of a disappointment for me.
Yeah.
So I just think that I'm pretty nonchalant about this one. I've got no expectations.
Yeah.
So, because otherwise I mean, I did the same thing with Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
Dawn of Justice. I was like so up for it. I was like, yeah, this is the biggest letdown. So this is why I'm not sure whether I'm going to see it tonight or not. It just depends how I feel. I mean, I probably will.
Yeah, but I think, okay, so obviously we talk about Netflix versus cinema on this thing, and a thing that keeps coming up is the shared experience of going to the cinema, and that how big a thing it's, and I think Avengers and I think Marvel are okay, Star Wars still has a little bit of it, but when you go in there and you have a packed cinema and there's just this buzz in the room, and there's all these people going like, oh my god, what's going to happen? That, I think, is what is missing and what you don't get if you're sat at home on your own.
It's true, very true.
Yeah, so, but the number of things that will give you that buzz, that will give you that kind of reaction, are dwindling and are going lower and lower and lower. Yeah. So you get Avengers, Star Wars maybe, but I'm not so sure. For instance, episode 9 this year, I'm not that bothered.
No, I'm not bothered with Star Wars.
I'm not that bothered. So I think you have that shared thing of, we're going to watch this thing and it's going to be like, oh my god, no. I'm expecting there to be a couple of what moments in this. So I think that's what you can get with cinema, and but you don't really get it with much else besides Marvel or the big Marvel movies. I think really the Avengers movies, you don't really get them until with that. So for that, I'm happy for that. Kevin Feige and all the Marvel people, well done for keeping cinema alive.
Yeah.
Because what the fuck is all right. We will be talking about that next week.
Yes, we will.
After we've all seen it, I think we'll let, and all of you who are listening to this, I mean, hopefully you'll actually go away, you'll go get a chance to actually go watch this film. And then when we're talking about it, you can all sort of like be like, oh yeah, and let us know what your thoughts are as well, what you liked and what you didn't. And thank you for everybody who's been listening to the podcast, and we've been seeing the numbers go up and all that kind of stuff, and it's pretty good. Tell a friend if you think we're talking okay, if you don't think we're talking rubbish. If you think we're talking rubbish, just keep it to yourself and enjoy our rubbish. But so this week we have a couple of films who have managed to sneak into the cinemas before Avengers Endgame, because I haven't looked at the release schedule, but I don't think anybody is stupid enough to be released this week. I don't think anybody's stupid enough to do it. You know what? I'm going to make a nice little independent movie, and I'm going to release it in the same week as Avengers Endgame. I don't think anybody is. So, but there's a couple of films that have been released in the week beforehand, and you're going to kick us off with a film that's in cinemas at the moment, and that's a film called Red Joan.
Red Joan, yeah.
Red Joan, starring the Dame.
The Dame Judy, yeah. Dame Judy Dench.
Dame Judy.
Sorry, yeah. Judy Dench.
Yeah, Dame Judy. Yeah. So okay, you've seen this. You're the only one out of us who's seen this.
Yes.
So tell us, what's it about? What did you think?
Okay, basically this film's about, it starts off with this probably 80-year-old woman. She gets arrested on suspicion of spying basically, and then so she gets taken to MI5 and she's interviewed, and while she's being interviewed she thinks back to all the times like when she, before the war, and how she got involved with, there was a lot of, in universities at that time there was a lot of communist and how she got involved. And so it's pretty much like that. It keeps flashing between. She's not in it a great deal actually. It's just moments where they ask her questions, and then she thinks back like first love, and because obviously I would say it's a bit of a love story because it's a relationship. She gets in a relationship with, should we say, a member of the, left-wing communist type party. Yeah. So, but what's really good about this, you never know, was it for love or was it for different reasons that what actually happened? So I won't give away any spoilers there. So you've got this thing's told in flashbacks, and obviously it goes through the war and then post-war with the secrets and
post-Cold War. Is this?
Post-Cold War.
Yeah.
And not post-Cold War, no, post-war, and it is the Cold War, and obviously some people want to share the technology of the atomic bomb with the Russians.
Also post-World War II?
Post-World War II.
Okay, cool, gotcha, yeah.
So, and so obviously she gets a job at one of these places that is working on that. So,
Well, like a government's high top secret
facility talking about. So yeah, so that's basically the story. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's not the sort of movie I would normally go out of my way to see, but I thought, well, I need to see something. And I just thought, I'll watch Red Joan. And it was a really, really good movie. I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have thought I would, because there's a lot of relationships, a lot of lovey-dovey relationships and all that. But it's quite good, and it also makes you think. You think, did she? All the time you're thinking, did she? Did she not?
Yeah.
What? And so things sort of builds up, and you're thinking, just because maybe she was falling in love with a communist, someone who was a member of the Communist Party.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make her culpable? With certain things. So. Yeah, it was a good fun film. I much better than I thought it was going to be. Well, actually, I had no expectations, so I couldn't say it was much better than I thought it was going to be, because it was a romance, really.
Yeah.
It's a love story.
You see now, as you're speaking, you have this sort of slightly almost embarrassed look on your face about it's like you're almost as if you're going, it was a romance and I liked it. It's okay. No,
So I mean, I'm allowed. There's some romances.
Yeah, you're allowed.
I'm allowed. And I mean, I really liked the period. I think it had a good period feel to it with the flashbacks. It had a nice, it felt.
Yeah.
Where they have like blackboards and chalk and things, and doing all the equations and stuff.
And nobody has a mobile phone.
Yeah,
nobody has a
mobile
mobile
phone or anything like that. And the fashion's really, really good. I forget who the actress is who plays
the younger. Her name's Sophie Cookson.
Sophie Cookson, but
she was in the Kingsman movies.
Oh, Kingsman movies, yeah. I really like her. She was good in this. She played the part really well. I think, and she played it like you could imagine Judi Dench playing it, which is quite good when someone plays it. I often think it's like when Solo came out.
Yes.
The guy who played Solo.
Yeah.
I thought he was quite good actually as a young Solo.
Yeah.
And so, when they play these other actors play the younger selves, I think they must study. So they probably study and think, how.
Well, it is a pretty tall order if they say, we want you to play a role. You're going to be a young Judi Dench. You're like, no pressure.
That's it.
You can be like, no pressure. Just be a young Judi Dench. Why not? Easy. So she does quite well in that.
She does well, she does really well. And as I say, for the film, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually, more than...
Did you do any research about the original story?
No, not at all. Nothing. I did nothing. I just thought... I mean, the thing is, I was over at some relatives the weekend, and they tend to, shall we say, like certain evenings, they tend to watch some of the regular BBC, do you know what I mean? All that sort of what I call. So, and I saw this.
Are you having a go at Line of Duty here?
Well, maybe not Line of Duty, but certain things, should we say? And I just thought, and I just happened to see, because I got the Cineworld card. They got the Cineworld in Poole. So I looked, and originally I thought a film we'll talk about later. I thought, wow, I need to see that because that is not coming to the island. So I went to see that, and then I thought, I mean, I'm not a major snooker fan as well, so it was all like, snooker, and I said,
everybody was watching snooker at home.
I thought, there's a film on that I really, really want to see, and they were like, everybody was cool with it, so I just went and watched Red Joan.
All right.
The only thing I knew about it was like a spy thing, and I thought it was going to be. I think it surprised me in the fact that I thought it was going to be like a trial movie. Do you know what I mean? It was going to be Judi Dench in the dock.
In the dock, and they're going to be like, "Why did you do this? Why did you do that?"
Blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't like that at all. So, it was a nice surprise.
Oh, cool. So, how many stars would you give Red Joan?
I'd give Red Joan. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a knockout masterpiece. I mean, I really, really enjoyed it. So I think I've got to give it a solid 3 stars for that one. Solid 3 stars.
Solid 3 stars for Red Joan. Shaun, get in touch with his romantic side. Because Dame Judy has done that. She's put you in touch with your romantic side.
Indeed, she has.
All right, cool. And so now we're going to go over to the Netflix side of things, or as increasingly we're describing it, is Netflix and Friends. Because Netflix is not the only streaming thing, it's not the only home entertainment thing that you can have. And I have one that I caught, and this is, and I think one of the things that we talk about, you spoke about films that don't come to the island. Like there might be a film that you might want to see, but it's not going to make it to every single cinema. And then you miss it, and then I think this is where Netflix comes into its own, because it catches all these little things or things at home. And this one it wasn't on Netflix, it was on Sky Cinema, and it's a film called Brigsby Bear. Brigsby Bear, and it's a film that I saw in the cinemas when it came out, and I thought that looks interesting. I want to go have a look at that, but it, couldn't find it at the cinema. If it was in the cinema, it was like poof, and it disappeared. And so finally, actually got a chance to watch it. Now, and this is a film. It stars Mark Hamill of Luke Skywalker fame and all that kind of stuff. And in it starts off, the film kicks off, and you just see this boy, and he's sitting down, and you see his room, and you can see that he's almost kind of like, the kind of kid that doesn't leave his room that often.
Yeah.
You can see he doesn't leave his room that often, and he's just watching this TV show and everything like that, and you can see that he's watching it going, oh my God, that's what Brigsby Bear does. And it's kind of like one of these kids TV shows, like Barney the purple dinosaur.
Yeah.
Kind of like, imagine that kind of show, only that the character is called Brigsby Bear, and he watches this whole thing, and then you see that he has all the seasons, like 26 seasons of this show, on VHS tapes, just packed up to the ceiling of his room and all that. And he's going down there and he's making all these notes and all that. And he's like obsessed with this show. And he sits down in front of a webcam and he's saying, hey guys, all you other Brigsby people out there, I just figured this out. This is what we need to do. And he's going to have to find this thing. And essentially think about the kind of people who watch an episode of Game of Thrones and immediately go online and say, guys, this is what's going to happen. I reckon this person's going to be on the Iron Throne. He does that for this kids show called Brigsby Bear.
How old is he?
He is in his 20s. He's about 25 or something like that. Then he goes and he meets his parents, and you can see, and he's doing like this presentation for his parents, telling them, oh, I figured it out. Brigsby's going to do this, and he's going to find this thing. And his parents are kind of like, son, we just figured that you're going to use your brain for other things and all that, and you could apply your things to like maths or physics. And he's like, no, Brigsby's what I love. And it's really, really weird, because his parents are played by Mark Hamill, and sorry, I don't know the actress's name, and they do this weird thing, like they sort of say something that's a bit like a prayer before they eat their dinner, and they're like, yeah, and so help us all, and then they stand up, and then person one shakes hands with person three, then shakes hands with person two, then person three shake hands, and you're just kind of like, this is weird, because I started watching this film and I actually sort of stopped, and then I said, okay, no, I've got to show this to my wife, and I showed her like the first 10 minutes, and she was just kind of like, what's
going on?
What's going on? Why are these people so weird? And then his dad comes to him, and his dad is like, son, do you want to go to the pier? And then he climbs up this ladder, but before he goes out of this hatch, he presses like this keypad into this thing, opens up the keypad, and then he climbs up into this sort of like biodome area.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, he climbs up into this sort of biodome area, and like just have this biodome on there. And underneath the biodome, you have all these guys just sort of like, and they're looking out, and you can see all these sort of fireflies and stuff, but it's fake. Everything out there is fake. And you're like, what is going on? And you have that. It turns out that one day while he's out there on the roof, he just sees his police cars. Like, he's told he can't go outside, and if you go outside, you have to put on like a mask and everything like that. Then he sees like these sort of like flashing lights come to the house. Then the FBI break into the house, and they grab his parents and they shove him to the ground, and they handcuff his parents, and they take him out. And he's kind of like, no, you've got to give me a mask. The air is poisonous. It's poisonous. And it turns out that he has never left that house in 25 years.
Wow.
He hasn't left the house in 25 years. And the police tell him that he was abducted as a baby, and his parents are not his real parents.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and the thing is, and this is, in a way, I almost don't want to say anything about this film, but to move the story forward, you have to tell people this. And it turns out that this show that he's obsessed with is not a real TV show. It's like the only TV show he's ever watched. And it turns out that his fake dad, played by Mark Hamill, made this show for him. So he went and he created this whole TV show for him. So he's been watching this thing thinking that everybody else in the world has done it, and no one else has what. So they find his original parents who have been looking for him for 25 years. He gets reunited with them, although he's never known them. So he has this whole weird thing where, like, even people ask him and they're like, oh, what does it feel about the people who kidnapped you? He's like, yeah, I guess they kidnapped me. I guess that was pretty bad, but they're still pretty cool. Because as far as he knows, they're his parents.
That's it.
Yeah, as far as he knows, they're his parents and all that kind of stuff. And then it's all about him trying to get back into society and him trying to connect with things. And there's a scene where he goes to the cinema for the first time, and he's watching a film that is obviously like a ripoff of The Mighty Ducks, and he's watching it and he's kind of going, oh wow, are there other films? Is there any other film? Do other people make films? Like, I understand. And he eventually decides, that what he wants to do to get back into society is like because the TV show that he watched, Brigsby Bear, never got finished, obviously because the FBI broke in and everything. So the TV show never got finished. And he decides that what he wants to do is that he wants to finish it. He wants to make a Brigsby Bear movie to finish the whole thing off. And people think he's weird. His new family, they don't know how to deal with him. He has a younger sister who's kind of like doesn't know. So she takes him out to parties and all sorts of things happens. He has encounters with girls and all that and all these different. And he shows the VHS tapes to one of his sister's friends who gets like really, really into it, puts the things up onto YouTube, and then the whole world gets into it. Oh, wow. So it's a very weird film. It's very off kilter. It's offbeat, but I love the film.
There was a film like that. I forget what it was called. It was Christopher Walken was in it, I know, and the guy who played Joan.
Oh,
and
yeah,
do you remember the one I mean? And
yeah,
like,
with Brendan Fraser. Blast from the Past.
And Blast from the Past.
Yeah,
So that type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, that type of thing. Only that I think they went underneath because they thought that there was going to be a nuclear thing, and they stayed down there and when they were running out of supplies, they sent him back up to realize that the nuclear bomb never happened, that it never actually happened. Yeah, but this one is different because it does things where you're like, okay, sure enough, these people kidnapped this kid. But it almost kind of asks you, but were they that bad? And then there's a bit where they go into the whole thing. And so it's a bit of a touchy subject, especially if you think about if this was a real life thing. If it was like a real life implication, it would be horrible. But it's about this guy. It's almost like, okay, forget about that. Now he has to carry on with his life. And it's just kind of like, this is all he knows. And
so did you enjoy it?
Loved it.
Yeah,
loved it.
Cool.
It's a very, very, so it's one of these films that it's kind of, it's direct. It comes from the Lonely Island guys like Andy Samberg, Joe Matacone, Akiva Schaffer. They tend to have this whole thing where it can be really weird and off-put, but it's also really, really sweet, and it's like there's almost like a real moral at the end of the day. And I think that they really, really do that with this film. They really, I mean, as I said, I showed it to my wife and she started watching the first 10 minutes and she watched the whole thing with me.
Oh, wow.
And at the end, she was kind of like, well, that was weird. And she usually does not like weird stuff. But she was watching and she was like, oh, that was weird, but that was actually kind of cute. It was actually quite a really, really good film. And I think it's just like the aesthetic of the film, and when the Brigsby Bear things, it just apes 80s children's TV so well. And just the story of this guy trying to get back into real life, or trying to get back into life above ground, trying to get back into, and I think it's because I just think it's really, really well done. I think all the characters are well. There's no character that you look at anything where they're just a token in there. They all have something to do, and there's always cool. But I like it as a small little. But if you can find it, I'll say track it down. Brigsby Bear.
Sure.
Yeah, I would give that a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
Yeah,
cool.
I'll go a 4 out of 5. Okay, cool. So now we are kind of stalling for time because we're expecting Sharon to come through the door any moment now. And this is a film that the next film that we have lined up to talk about is a film that we were originally we could have spoken about it last week. We could have, but Sharon was on holiday, and we said that we wanted Sharon to be the one to be here when we spoke about the film, because obviously, because it's kind of right up Sharon's street.
It is, yeah.
It's right up Sharon's street. It's about country music. It even has Bob Harris. Whispering Bob Harris from Bob Harris Country on BBC Radio 2.
Well, I remember when I was young, I used to have a thing called the Old Grey Whistle Test.
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some really, really iconic bands, bands that became huge,
Yeah, because he was someone who, well, let me see, I mean, while he was doing his heyday stuff, I wasn't growing up here, so I didn't know anything about him. And the main first time I heard about him was I actually filmed him at the Isle of Wight Literary Festival a couple of years back. And that's when I heard about this whole Bob Harris thing. Then that's when I started paying attention to him on the radio. And I know he has this big thing of country music. And I know Sharon is a big on country music.
She likes country.
So we
folk, I think.
Yeah, well, country and folk. And so we held this film back so we could talk about it when Sharon was here. And okay, for those of you who might listen, you already have figured out that we're thinking about Wild Rose. So let's give it 5 more minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to give it 5 more minutes, and what we're going to do is that we're going to switch back to Netflix, and we're going to talk about a Netflix film, another film that you have seen, only you have seen, and this is a film called First They Killed My Father.
First They Killed My Father, yeah.
Okay, so tell us about this.
Okay, Now this is I think it's a couple of years ago, 2016 film.
Yeah.
Directed by Angelina Jolie.
Okay.
And it's the film. It's about during Cambodia, during the time of the Khmer Rouge, and it's like this middle class family. They're in Phnom Penh.
Yep.
The Khmer Rouge arrive and they say, everybody out of the city, everybody out of the city. The Americans are going to bomb, and they take all these people out of the city, all the people that lived in the city.
Yeah.
And they, in the end, after this journey, they end up in forced labour camps, basically, because they want to be an agrarian society. And a lot of it's seen through the eyes of this 10-year-old girl.
Yeah.
She's like, or even, I think her sister might be 10, she's probably 8. And, gradually through it's basically sort of like the killing fields. I mean, if people have seen the killing fields, it's that sort of, and I was really interested in like the Vietnam War and all the stuff afterwards.
Yeah,
It's probably, I mean, it's quite funny. I know we're going off a tangent like we do, but I did once. I went online and did the GCSE bite-sized questions on Vietnam, and I mean this without any research or anything else, and I aced it. I mean, I got the full 10 questions right, and that's why Vietnam movies. I really like Vietnam movies. Anything to do with Vietnam.
Yeah.
And obviously this was because Vietnam went to war with Cambodia after. So, and that's mentioned in it as well. That happens at the end because they came in to liberate. Because it was, I mean, there was a third everywhere you look at died.
A third of population of Cambodia.
Of Cambodia, and I mean that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is mad.
And I mean,
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, this it's quite a harrowing film, and in moments, actually, I mean, I'm very hard-hearted, and I don't normally cry, but there were a few emotional moments where it nearly brought me to tears, and I thought that's really sad. And it had a real taste of realism. You know what I mean? There was some really, it was like, over here, and it's all about this family. Obviously, some of them get taken away to fight. They say, "Oh, the Vietnamese, we need soldiers." So some of our older siblings are
forcibly conscripted into the Cambodian army.
Obviously, they killed anybody that was a teacher or government or anybody of any education. They killed, and of course, at the start of the film, for maybe a third of the film, her father's sort of pretending that he's pretty much
that he's in line with them.
Yeah. So obviously, that's what it kills. I think it's shot very, very well.
Yep.
And it had some really great moments. I thought there were some times when it was a little bit laboured. There were some moments where they seemed to think, it was like, come on, let's move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's okay, we know, we can understand, this beautiful country.
Well, a couple of moments where you say maybe go a little preachy.
A little preachy, perhaps. Well, yeah, but more just long shots of the country, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Aerial shots of like the people working on the
on the fields.
On the fields and things, and bringing all the food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so it's difficult to say. I thought, as I say, I enjoyed it, and I would. It's going to make me watch the Killing Fields again. I need to see the Killing Fields again now through seeing this film.
Yeah.
Because have you ever seen the Killing Fields?
I've never seen the Killing Fields. I've heard loads about the Killing Fields. I've heard all about the. Was it like a lady who plays? She plays a man, but she got the Best Actress Oscar, Best Supporting Actress Oscar for playing a man. And I've heard about Killing Fields. I've heard a lot about it, and it's one of those films that always gets spoken about.
Yeah.
And you know the name, but I've never actually seen the film.
No.
I mean, it took me ages to actually figure out what the film was actually about. So so never actually seen the film. So it sounds as if you say this is like a good companion piece for the Killing Fields.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Yeah, definitely works. I mean, it is subtitled and it's all in Khmer. It's all in.
Is
Cambodian.
it?
Yeah. So
I
and it's
did not know
subtitled.
that.
So there's no real. There's no English in it at all. It's all Khmer, and they're all Khmer actors, and they look. And in fact, I looked up. Like sometimes you look at about films afterwards.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in it where they've got after the Vietnamese have sort of half liberated, and they say, they've got a Khmer soldier. They've got a Khmer soldier and the crowd's gathered around him, and they're being not particularly nice to him. And that's that. And the IMDb thing, it's everything trivia. And the trivia, he was an actual Khmer soldier that played the part.
Was he?
The same thing happened to him, and it was actually the person that was in that scene.
Oh wow!
It actually happened to him like it did in the scene. So, And I think it's based on a book, which was like the Killing Fields was based on as well. It was a book of like poems and stories about what had happened, and
Yeah.
a famous book. And it made me look at some other things. And there's actually I can't remember the name of it. I must do it, but apparently there was in Cambodia before the Khmer Rouge, there was quite a thriving cinema scene.
Oh, yeah.
Movie scene,
Yeah.
Some big movies, but
Yeah.
it said now there's hardly any of them because they all got destroyed in
Yeah.
the revolutionary type things. But this one guy's made a film about that the golden time
Of Cambodian
movies.
cinema.
Yeah, Cambodian cinema.
So with that, I mean, it's obviously the title is massively so evocative. Once you say first they killed my father.
First they killed my father.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me sort of think, okay, so they killed more people. Who did they kill next? And that kind of stuff. Like,
That's it.
who's
People
still?
that got killed. So
Yeah.
So I mean, basically, that's it. Obviously, you know the father gets killed.
Yeah.
In a not particularly nice way.
Well, yeah, I would imagine no. Yeah.
But he's been in the camp for a little while, and he's like, they come up to him and they say, "Oh, we need you to help build a bridge. We need you to work on the dam." And obviously, there's like a soldier with a gun. And
Yeah.
a guy with a little axe, and he's like, he knows what's going to go on. He goes, "Oh," and he sort of says to his daughters and sons, this, I made this, and made this, and
Yeah.
and off he goes, and it's not. Well, that's it. So that's the first one, and then it's just about the family breakdown, really. And the mother sort of says, "Right, you need to get out of here. You need to get out. So you go west, you go east." And she sort
Oh,
of
good
tries-
lord!
Sends them off and says, "Wait until you come to the camp."
What time period was this set in?
70s.
70s.
Yeah, round about.
Yeah, because it's something that I really, really just don't
You
know
don't know
much
nothing
about. I mean,
about
I've heard about the Khmer Rouge, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I've heard about the Killing Fields. I'm like, I don't know what that is. So it's but okay.
So the history behind it is obviously it was when the Vietnam War was on in the 60s.
Yeah.
There was obviously the Americans. There's a couple of films about like Air America. I don't know if you've
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've seen Air America.
Yeah, it's about taking supplies in because the American government, obviously the domino theory, they wanted to support Cambodia. So basically they supplied the Cambodian troops.
Yeah.
And then obviously the communists were the Khmer Rouge, whereas in Vietnam they were the VC, which
Vietcong, yeah.
North Vietnamese Army. So yeah, and anyway, so when Vietnam was won, obviously the Americans, once they pulled out of Vietnam, they didn't really want to support
Any other person in that area.
it was like, man, we've just had our butts kicked. Let's get out. We're not going to. And so there was no support anymore for Cambodia. So the non-law, I think the president was. Obviously, it was eventually the capital got cut off, and the Cambodian army was like, oh yeah, they came to welcome the Khmer Rouge and say, oh yeah, that's okay, and that. But and there's a scene in that first of all where like regular army are, and then the Khmer Rouge come in. They're like, okay, drop your weapons and all that, and take them off and cull them,
Oh, good lord, humans.
So,
but okay.
But it's an interesting, obviously, if you think about it, around about that time, I was in my early teens.
Yeah.
And so obviously, and I mean, all that stuff was on the news. All the Vietnam stuff was on the news. It was just like daily stuff. Oh, this happened there, this happened. So
Yeah.
most photographed war, I think, most filmed war. Now, since Vietnam, every war, Falklands, everything has been stage managed. The Gulf War. It's just like, because they said, we are not allowing any foreign journalists
To come in and just
to
so
cover.
to just
I mean, the Falklands War, there's a really interesting programme about how Maggie Thatcher only allowed 3 journalists. She handpicked the journalists which were allowed to go to the Falklands because they reckon that the media is what, with all the riots and all the peace movements and all that were all due to all this footage coming out of Vietnam.
Yeah. And people having such a reaction to it and covers it unrest. So it sounds like I feel like I almost don't have to ask you about what you thought about this film or how many stars you would rate it. So, but we have to. That's what we do with this show.
That's what we do.
So how many stars would you give it?
I would say if it was there were moments in it where it seemed a little bit laboured, but on the whole, I think because I love the period and I think it is a good film, I would have to give this a 4 star.
All right.
So this gets a 4 star. This one.
I think there's something that I think you'd be quite interested in. There was I read an article once. I was talking about Angelina Jolie and was asking, is she the new Clint Eastwood? because everybody's thinking about Clint Eastwood and everything like that. Like, you know, how he starts off seen as being like a bit part actor. He was only just known for his looks, and then he started doing all these sort of other characters, and then he forged himself a career as a director and became like a really, really interesting director. And people were saying, if you look at Angelina Jolie's career path, it pretty much follows Clint Eastwood's path, and there's no, like they're talking about, there's no male star that essentially Angelina Jolie is a spiritual successor to Clint Eastwood. And the truth is, I could see her playing the man with no name. I've got to be
cool with the poncho. The way cinema's going with all these big female parts, you never know. It's always a possibility, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think it is good. I mean,
there was a Western, I think, a couple of years
Jane
back.
Got a Gun.
Jane Got a Gun, you know.
That was nothing to write home about. That didn't do anything for women starring, and didn't do anything for westerns.
But I did enjoy Sharon Stone in The Quick and the Dead.
That was good.
That was good.
That was good.
That's a good movie.
I like that.
That
I like
that.
movie, yeah. Oh, we had Leonardo DiCaprio. It's like, oh,
the kid.
Yeah. He has this whole thing where he says, "The something is quicker than the mind
right,
is quicker than the hand," or something
Did you
like
see
it.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that. Okay, Sharon still isn't here.
That's strange.
I feel like we need to send up like a pigeon or something like that.
Yeah.
Or anyway, but we're going to carry on. And you were talking just now about more starring roles for women in movies. And that's something that I think obviously it's been a while, and it's like, you know, it's good to see, like, you know, there's going to be more films in which you have women taking center stage, and more of that we should be seeing that. And so it does seem to be a thing where you seem, as you were saying, that you see almost noticeably that there are more films that have women in like, you know, around women issues. It's that with them in the main coming out. And there's this film called Greta, which I went to see. I went to see this film called Greta, and it's obviously it's named after a woman. If you look at the poster, you see the top 3 billed people in the film are women. There's hardly any man in this film, to be honest with you, if I think of it. But that's not the point about it. That's not the point. So the whole idea is this is a bit of a throwback film, and it's a film that it starts off and it has Chloe Grace Moretz plays a character called Frances, and she's on the New York subway, and she sees a bag, and she sees this bag, and she sees there's no one around the bag. She takes the bag, opens it up, finds like a driver's license, finds some pills, and finds some money in there, and she's thinking, oh well, I'll be a good Samaritan. I'll return this bag to the person who it came from. Obviously, this being a film, you know that's never a good idea. So she goes back and she returns this bag to this lady called Greta, and this lady is like, "Oh, thank you so much for bringing it in. Oh, come in, have a cup of tea and everything like that." And she starts finding out about the lady's life, finds out that, like, you know, the lady is a widow, her husband's dead, she has one daughter but is not around. She talks about how lonely she is in New York, and so Frances is like, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll come along. I'll help you. Here's my number," all that kind of stuff. And so Frances is staying with a friend of hers, and this friend has, like, her dad bought her like an apartment in New York and all. So she goes back to her friend and she's like, "Oh yeah," tells her the story, and her friend is like, "What? Are you crazy?" Her friend is like, "Are you crazy? She's a psycho. You don't. This is New York. You don't just sort of like give people your number." And she's like, "No, it's fine. She'll be fine," and all that kind of stuff. And as the film goes on, all of a sudden, Greta starts getting more and more obsessive. Yeah, she gets more and more obsessive, and something happens, which I'm not going to say. I found it pretty obvious, but I'm not going to say it. Something happens that makes Frances think, "Ooh, maybe I need to keep my distance." So she tries to sort of distance herself from Greta, but Greta just sort of like starts showing up her place of work, and because she works as a waiter, so she shows up and she's just sort of like hanging there, going, "Why aren't you answering my calls? Why aren't you answering my calls?" Like, Frances wakes up at night and there's, like, you know, 15 missed calls and messages going, "Where are you? I'm trying to find you. I'm trying to call you." And she does things like she just goes and stands across the road from the restaurant where she works and just stands there all day. So she calls the police and they're like, "Well, she isn't really doing anything, so we can't arrest her. We can't do anything. She's just standing there. She has the right to stand there." So it just keeps going on. And if you ever saw like some sort of early 90s thrillers like Single White Female, it has a very sort of single white female vibe about it. That's sort of like psychological thriller. There was a film with C. Thomas Howell in it, but I can't remember, where there's this guy who shows up and little by little starts trying to take over his life and starts, like, you know, dressing like him and looking like him and all that kind of stuff, and eventually becomes like his... Yeah, a bit like The Gift. A bit like The Gift. A bit like The Gift. A bit like there's a little bit of Fatal Attraction in there because you have Chloe Grace Moretz who plays Frances, and you have Isabelle Huppert who plays Greta. And so there's a little bit of that where she sort of just keeps getting her way into her life, and it's just this thing about this person gets obsessed with this other person and just keeps going, no, I will be in your life, no, I want to, and refuses to take no for an answer. And it's this increasing thing that keeps going on. I thought a lot of this film was massively predictable, because I could look at it and I could go, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's going to happen. Sure enough, that happens. It's directed by Neil Jordan, who directed The Crying Game. Yeah. And he brings in Stephen Rea, who was also in The Crying Game, and he plays typical New York detective. And once the detective shows up, I'm like, okay, cool, I know what's going to happen now. I know what's going to, and pretty much every beat of this film, I predicted, but I really did not enjoy watching this film. And the problem I have here, and trying to sort of rate this film, is I feel like I was not supposed to enjoy watching it.
Oh, right. I see.
Yeah, I feel like it's because I didn't enjoy watching this film because the things that were going in and how Greta was getting all obsessive. I found this more of a horror film than The Conjuring or anything like that.
Really?
Because I felt like everything that could happen in this film could actually happen. I feel like it could actually happen. So I was just really, really nervous about it. And when I go home at night, this film gave me bad dreams. It gave me bad dreams. I actually fell asleep, and I was dreaming that what happened in the film was happening to me. I was dreaming what happened in the film happened to me, and it was one of those things. I think Sharon, hello Sharon. Hello. Sharon just walked in. We were about to send a raven to find out where you'd been. So, okay, that's just so I'm talking about Greta, and so. I started dreaming that something that happened in this film happened to me, and it was just not fun. It was not fun whatsoever. I ended up just sort of like thinking like, I would just let you hook on. I ended up just sort of thinking like, okay, cool, what is going on here? And I think Sharon was talking about it a couple of weeks ago, where you have a dream and then somehow you realize you're in a dream and you go, what? I've had enough of this, and it actually happened to me. It was so bad. I was like, I had enough of this. I woke up. So when it comes to reviewing this film, I didn't enjoy watching it, but I'm like, does that mean that the film was actually really effective at doing what it was supposed to do because I did not enjoy watching it? Or does that mean that the film was just stupid and predictable and therefore I didn't enjoy watching it? And I still can't put my finger on it. I feel like it's a very, very histrionic film. It's like it's one of the few films in which you notice the musical score. It's like something happens and it's like, da, 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 da. And it just, you notice that all the way through, and you feel like it is deliberately done that way. And it's not a film that you want to apply logic to, because you start thinking, hang on, why did she do that? How does that go? Why wouldn't you tell anybody you were going there? And so there's all these questions that you end up asking, and even the way it ends and the way it goes, you're like, no, come on, no, forget about that. So from watching it, I remember coming out of the film and watching, I wanted to give this film a 2. But after thinking about it, I'm going, but if it made me feel unsettled, if it gave me bad dreams, is that what they were trying to do with the film?
Possibly.
Is that so I think I might have to give this film a 3. I think I'm gonna have to give it a 3. It is kind of like a mix between Single White Female and Fatal Attraction. And Isabelle Huppert, she does one of these, you know, when they talk about somebody swinging for the fences, the performance is totally her swinging for the fences. It's totally her just going for it. There's a scene where she's playing some Chopin, dancing around, and you go like, yeah, she's dialed into the doolally side of her. She is really, really dialed into the doolally side of her. I think Chloe Grace Moretz is all right in the film. Micah Monroe is all right in the film. But it's really Isabelle Huppert's movie. But I just feel like the things that she does and where the film goes, I found deeply, deeply unsettling and unpleasant. So, yeah, I'd give it a 3.
3-star.
Yeah. Sharon, how are you doing?
Yeah,
I'm well, thank you. I've had a day of being wet, dry, then sweating.
So you've just come from like, well, okay, obviously smell doesn't travel in a podcast, but you just come like, you just come from like, a floral shower.
I have, but literally 5 minutes ago. My hair's still wet. For those who don't know, I am a gardener by trade.
Yeah.
So I am out in all weathers, and you just, even one day, you just get hot, sticky, sweaty, muddy, horrid.
Then you have a shower, get it all off, then you leg it down here and get all sweaty again.
And I sort of get up and become all flushed normally with wet hair.
Okay, cool. So we have been stalling like crazy. Wild Rose was going to kick us off, but we've held it back and held it back and held it back so that you would be here, because we held this film back from like last week,
so that we could all be in on the discussion.
Well, ideally, so that you could be here to actually talk about it, because we've spoken about the fact that it has Bob Harris in it. It's all about country music, and this is your wheelhouse.
Yes.
This is your wheelhouse. So we're going to give Shaun and I are going to give ourselves a little bit of a break, and we're going to say, okay, so Wild Rose, tell us what it's about.
Wild Rose is about a woman who we first meet her. She is in prison in Scotland. She is a passionate country fan, and her dream is to be a country star in Nashville. But her sea anchors, as it were, the things that are holding her back, are her poor choices throughout her life. She's only a young woman in her 20s, but she's already got 2 children with their father's not in sight.
Yeah.
She's had no career plan because she just wants to sing, so she's just never been employed properly. And her mum basically has been picking up the slack. She's been looking after her children. She's been sort of being mother to her grandchildren, basically. And throughout the film, you see her almost regarding her children as an anchor that's slowing her down rather than something that should uplift her. And you see the film as she tries desperately through a couple of different ways to get to Nashville to fulfill her dream. Yeah. And one of the ways she thinks is by finally getting to meet Bob Harris, who does his country show on BBC Radio 2. No plugs here. And she thinks, oh right, if I get to meet Bob Harris, he'll give me all these tips. And the only tip she does get to meet him, and the tip he gives her is, they say that country music is 3 chords and the truth. Well, if you're going to be a country singer, then you need to speak your truth. Yeah. So you need to write your own songs, you need to perform your own songs, and that's the avenue you really need to go down if you want to be successful. You could be fine singing, but there's lots, as anyone who's seen X Factor will know, there's lots of good singers out there. Yeah. Just being good is not enough. You've got to have that truth. And you've got to be able to express your truth in a way that is honest to you.
There's a line in the film that her mother says, when her mother released that, she goes, "You only have to turn on the TV to find a good singer." It's not enough. Yeah.
So we do follow her through the ups and downs of her life. We see the poor choices she's made, and sometimes you think, wow, you really are unlikable.
Totally. There was no.
But the performances are outstanding. So Jessie Buckley plays Rosalind, who is the star of the show. Her mother is played by Julie Walters. Yeah. Whispering Bob Harris is played by Whispering Bob Harris. And there's a couple of cameos from country stars that I'm not. I think if you've been really into country, you've gone, oh, that's so and so, because in the credits at the end it was like so and so as themselves. So there was a bit of country.
You're like, yeah, good for them.
Do you think? I did wonder. I mean, I don't know, but I wondered if the motel owner was maybe perhaps.
Possibly.
Because I'm pretty sure there must have been some cameo.
Yeah, there's a Nashville scene. There's a bit there's a bit in Nashville, set in Nashville, and there's a motel owner. Yeah. So I don't know. They might have been.
It's possible.
They very well.
Yes, I think it shows you this driving ambition, but then you get to see as the film progresses, she has to assess what really is important to her. Yeah. And through various events, we get to see that. For moving from someone who's completely self-obsessed to suddenly beginning to look beyond themselves, and then they can become to know their truth and to express it themselves.
Yeah. So we pretty much had a podcast trip to go see this film.
Yeah, we all went together.
Yeah, we all together. We all went to see this film last night, and this film I've seen from the little I've seen in the public conversation about this film, people are comparing it, and I think quite wrongly, to A Star Is Born.
No, it isn't. I don't think.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything like A Star Is Born. I think they're 2 totally different things.
Yes.
So it's I don't. So all of you who are doing that, stop. Makes no sense.
Yeah. But The Star Is Born is about one star rises and another star falls.
Yeah.
It's that sort of almost like transference, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
You see at the beginning of the film, the male star normally is at the peak, the pinnacle of their success.
Yeah.
And then meeting this woman, it marks the point when they start their decline.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
not in this film.
That's not in this film.
There's no suggestion of, fate at work here.
Yeah. It's. I think it's quite because to begin with, as you said, the character of Rose in this film is quite unlike.
Hateful.
Yeah.
Do not like her.
I think especially. Okay, Sean, you have a kid.
I do.
You have a kid, so I think especially her attitude to her kids is quite. I can imagine that's something that really just sort of gets right up your nose.
Why would you do that?
So it was very telling. I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but she's released from jail at the very beginning
Yes.
of the film, and the first thing she does is she goes to see her boyfriend, and they have this sort of quite sordid hookup in the nearby park.
Yeah.
When you think, and then later you realise, oh, she's got a mother and 2 children waiting for her.
Yeah.
So they're not her priority. Her priority was to get laid in a public park
Yeah.
Go singing.
and to go singing.
Yeah.
And the fact that she'd often forget her children, she'd just completely forget.
Yeah.
Or she'd be drinking and thinking, hang on a minute, you're supposed to be responsible for 2 children and you're drunk.
Yeah.
All these things that we're sort of, even I'm not a parent, I'm going, what are you doing? And you get to the point where you're thinking, those children would be better off without her.
Yeah.
And that's an awful thing to think, isn't it? That the children would be better off without their mother. But I think you see a progression. You see her mature through the film.
And that's a weird thing about the film, because I also think that there's times where I think she herself thinks that. At least,
there are times when you can see she has doubts, doesn't she?
Yeah.
There are moments
where she's thinking, maybe they are better off with my mum.
yeah, like she's a better mum than I am, so why does she just...
They cut from the children when they're not well. They go like, where's that? What, Granny?
Yeah.
Because she's the one who's been there for them.
Who played by Judy Walters is absolutely fantastic. To me, that was a proper performance. She was great.
Well, the thing is, I think everybody in this film, I just thought was on song.
Yeah.
I think Julie Walters is the mum, Jessie Buckley as Rose, Sophia Conedo, who plays this lady because she ends up getting a job as a cleaning lady.
As a cleaner, yeah.
And I feel like Sophia Conedo she's this sort of like wonderful presence. I've never seen her play a role like this before.
Totally. Bit dippy, really.
Yeah, it's a bit dippy. You're not sure whether she's naive or whether she's inspired or anything like that. You don't know whether it's
or she's just kind.
Yeah.
Because she makes choices and you're thinking, okay.
Yeah.
Have you been suckered, or are you genuinely just being kind?
Yeah.
You just don't know at some points.
Yeah, and I think this film, Sean, we were talking before you arrived, Sharon. We're talking about how all of a sudden there seem to be a lot of films that have female leads, and a lot of films that have like almost female stories. And this film, there's hardly a father in sight.
No, they're not referred to at all. The parents, the fathers of these two.
The fathers of the 2
we're
children.
assuming them that they're not the same guy.
Yeah.
The father of these 2 children.
The father of the 2.
And actually, what about acting? And the kids themselves played it really well.
Yeah.
The kids were awesome.
They were.
The kids were. I mean, we've had child actors have come up a couple of times in the last couple of weeks.
They've upped their game, haven't they? Really, from
apart from
Harry
Dumbo.
Potter days.
But the kids in this film were awesome. I mean, the kid. The thing is, like, this film, the performances were such that it almost felt like nobody was acting at any point.
That's what I was thinking. You don't think, "Hey, I'm acting now.
Yeah.
Look at me." It felt these sort of quite realistic, naturalised performances.
Yeah, I mean, like the kids. I mean, especially her daughter. The fact that her daughter, when she first meets her, doesn't say anything for absolute ages, and you're just looking at the kids and you're going, "Wow, the younger boy. He just seems like a small boy. He just a normal boy. He's running around and doing all these things." And it just comes across like, and even the thawing of the relationship between her and her daughter is so well done. I was sitting here going, did this girl really not like Jessie Buckley or something? Because the way they played it was just so great. It was just so great. And I think the story of it's because, especially when you talk about Star is Born, where it differs from A Star is Born, is A Star is Born is all about the rise and fall of these characters.
Yeah.
This isn't like a rags to riches tale at all. It's more about, or as the title says, Wild Rose. It's about her, and it's about almost how she marries all these disparate areas of her life together. So the bit the film ends on, it ends on a bit of like a hopeful note that, hey,
Yeah.
there might be hope.
Yeah.
There might be hope going forward, but not like, ta-da, look, she's made it. She's
I-
headlining at Glastonbury.
I was, and I actually quite liked that. That was like,
I
for
love
me,
that.
That was
Yeah.
a bit, because I thought,
Yeah.
no, no.
Well, we've seen
No.
that film, haven't we? Where someone has a dream and then they miraculously it comes true.
Yeah.
And when you think there's thousands of people who head off to Nashville every year, there's thousands of people who leave Nashville every year with their dreams broken.
Yeah, because there's so many
Well,
bits.
yeah.
There's so many bits in the film where it talks about things like that, and there's bits in the film, and there's a bit where the film is looking like it's going towards
Yeah.
what I would call a Hollywood ending.
Yes.
And I think that's where Shaun is going. No, because I was having the same thought. I was like,
Don't
if
do
if
it,
you do
don't
this,
do it.
if
Yeah.
you do, I will be so annoyed, because the film had gone to great lengths and great pains to tell you, oh, if you X, Y, Z, this will happen. If you do,
Yeah.
it's like, this doesn't happen. You don't get this that way. You don't. And if it just all of a sudden had gone like, oh yeah, you know the stuff he's talking about. Forget about it. Ta-da!
Yeah, because we've
It
all
would-
seen that film, haven't we, where they're singing in a pub or they're singing somewhere, then there just happens to be this producer there, and
Yeah.
they just happen to go,
Yeah.
you're just what I've been looking for all my
Oh,
life.
good Lord.
And
Yeah.
then here's a record deal, and then here's your tour of all the 30,000.
Yeah,
And
right.
we've seen that film, haven't we? And we just go,
Played many times.
Yeah.
stop now,
Yeah.
because we just don't care.
I mean, I even started yawning when you just started
Yeah.
describing that film. So
And if you just the fact that it steers away from that, I
It's-
think the fact that it's British makes a difference. I think we can handle that sort of film.
yeah, I think if you had like, girl from Glasgow takes over the world, people would be like, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
But it's like, girl from Glasgow figures out maybe how she can live her life a little bit better. You're like, yeah, we can handle that.
We can handle that, yeah.
We can
With
handle
some
that.
optimism at the end.
Yeah, I think with that, I mean, for instance, if I compare it to a film like a recent British film that we all loved, Fighting with My Family,
Oh,
Yeah.
and even that I think goes very Hollywood towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
definitely.
it goes, I feel like in Fighting for My Family, they go to great lengths to explain how, oh, this is all this, and it's acting, but at the same time, even though it's acting, it's still like there's a lot of training involved in it, but then at the end, they sort of seem to throw a lot of that out the window and go, but never mind, yeah, top of the world. But in this film, I felt like the ending was very true. to everything that happened before that.
I like the ending.
Yeah, like
It made the film for me.
It did.
I think it lifted it, because I was thinking, yeah, this is okay, and then it lifted it
Yeah.
completely.
yeah.
It added an extra point to my score.
All right, cool. So, and what would that point be?
It rose to a 4. It was
Oh,
a
right.
3, and then that ending. Because when I was watching it, sometimes in my head I do a mini review as I'm
Yeah.
watching it. Not always.
Yeah,
It depends if I'm in the film or not. And yeah, well, part of me was at one point I thought, I don't think this is going to be more than a 3. And then, but the ending made it a 4 for me.
Yeah, I've had that. I've had films before. Like, I think the worst one for me was Terminator Genesis. Where I'm watching it, and at the beginning, I'm like, oh man, they might be pulling this off. This might be a 4. Then as the film goes on, you're like, oh no. Okay, now it's a 3. Oh, now it's a 2.
Yeah.
Oh God, now it's
going, yeah.
now it's a 1. And then by the time I finish, you're like, I do not care. I just do not care.
You've lost me. You've lost me.
Yeah, so I know where. Okay, 4 for you, Sean. What do you say about
Okay,
it?
yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, for me, it didn't do any major. I didn't think it was a major. But I recognised it as a great film.
Yeah,
And as we said, the ending made it really good. And I think for the acting alone, it probably deserves a 4 just for the acting.
yeah. Yeah, I'd give it a 4 as well.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 4 as well. I mean, I really, because I understand what you mean about it being, and some people have said, oh, it's like a Sunday afternoon movie. I don't quite think it's that. I don't think it's at that level.
I don't think it's that cosy.
No.
I don't think you can just say, oh yeah, let's put your feet up and enjoy it film. I think it's too challenging, and she's too
Yeah.
abrasive for much of the film for that.
I think I have to say that. At the start of the film, I was very much possibly, to start with, I was even thinking possibly, I don't really like this 2, maybe a 3. But then I thought credible performances, really
Yeah.
well made. And for me, yeah, it was realism, which I like in movies. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. That's hence my.
Yeah, and I
my
think
rating.
it is a game changer for Jessie Buckley, I think.
I hope
She's
so.
been building up to this. I think she's been in a lot of roles over the last few years, but she's always been either slightly supporting or there have been lesser roles. I think this is really going to up her career, I think.
Cool.
The fact that she can carry a film. She did with Beast, but Beast was more of a two-hander
Yeah.
with Johnny Flynn, whereas this, I think, it's her film. So, yeah,
Oh,
good
cool.
things ahead.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I would encourage anyone to go see the film. I think it's. I mean, I love the fact that the character remains just so unrepentant for so long. Like, there's a scene where she meets up with her lawyer, and the stuff she says, I think the lawyer's reaction in that scene is the audience's reaction. It's the audience's reaction to what is coming out of your mouth. I think it's. I love the film. I thought it was great. Okay, now we're gonna mess around with our format today because we've just done cinema, and now let's see. I'm going to go cinema again, and Shaun, you're going to talk to us about a film that you alluded to earlier on,
Yes.
called Dragged Across Concrete.
Dragged Across Concrete. Yeah. Indeed.
So, go ahead.
Okay, well, this was I was on the mainland visiting some relatives, and I thought because they watch the general, normal Saturday TV stuff, which I'm not particularly into, I was flicking through cinema in Paul, and I saw this Drag Across Concrete. I thought, and I knew nothing about it, and I
never
thought,
heard of
this
it.
sounds interesting. So I thought, right, I'm going to go and see that. It was an 18, by the way, so it's an 18 certificate. You've seen Bone Tomahawk, haven't you?
Yes.
It's done by the director of Bone Tomahawk.
Okay, so you could expect some surprises and some gore, possibly?
A little bit of gore, yep, and like you say, a few surprises.
Was there a wince moment?
In this one, would I say there was a wince moment? There was a moment like, oh yeah, I guess the word.
I've heard of something that they've just referred to as the key in stomach.
Oh yeah, there's that. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yeah,
And it all comes flooding back.
it does. I was thinking of another. I was actually thinking, but yeah, that would probably be the moment. But there's another incident which I don't know. It's quite. Whoa, can't believe that happened. So there's a couple of moments where it's like, oh no, why would you? I'm not. Well, I suppose I could say, but it's just this. It's like not really anything to do with the rest of the film. I'll give you a brief synopsis of the film and then I'll play it ahead. So this, basically, you've got Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn. They're a couple of detectives. They're on the stakeout. They're making this arrest, and they get a bit, they're sort of old-fashioned type, and they use a bit too much force.
Yeah.
And obviously someone's filmed it, and so they get suspended.
Hence the name of the film, Dragged Across Concrete?
Probably something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. And so. So they decide that, or Mel Gibson saying, look, I haven't got much time left. I've been spent so many years as a cop. We're going to rip off some bank robbers, basically. We're going to rob some robbers. So, and Vince Vaughn's a little bit
on the fence. He doesn't really know whether to do it or not. Yeah.
Sure where he ends up. And they obviously, they rob some bank robberies. And the scene that I was talking about before, there is this scene when the robbery's taking place.
Yeah.
And they're not particularly nice characters, the bank robbers. Most of the time they've got masks on, so you never really say anything. But yeah, there's this poor woman, and a terrible thing happens to her. Bless her poor little soul. It's just like, she turns up. It's just like a first day back. It's like some really nasty stuff happens. But so that's basically the story. So they go, and they end up in the middle of nowhere. And they're trying to. There's like a bit of a standoff, a bit of a shootout, a bit of different things going on.
So I guess it's like a heist of a heist that kind of goes wrong.
A heist of a heist, yeah, with some great surprises actually. It's some really shocking moments and some real.
Oh, so kind of like you don't know where this is going.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
So really good. I don't think Mel Gibson's particularly on form, but he's okay.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn's come up in the world, I think, a little bit with Fighting With My Family and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
He's doing more proper acting, isn't he?
But this, I would say, some people could compare this to Tarantino because there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of talking going on. I think it's different to Tarantino stuff, but there are a lot of shots, and I mean, for some reason, maybe it's just an age of what the films were. A lot of the time, you've got through this car window, the screen, the windscreen.
Yeah.
You've got the two of them.
Yeah.
And there's conversations going on in different times, and so as they're driving along, and conversations in the car when they're on the stakeout and
Yeah.
they're doing stuff, and I really, really love that for me. And I thought, this Assault on Precinct 13, there's a scene in that where there's like 2 coppers in a car and they're trying to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And it brought back memories of that. And
it does seem like a very 70s shot.
Very, very, yeah. There's a lot of, and it reminded me of those 70s films.
Yeah.
You know, real tough, quite gritty. You know, and there wasn't anything particularly silly in this. I don't think, as I was expecting. You know me, I was on the lookout for things like that. And in fact,
things that you're like, oh, that would never happen. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Things in this actually happen, like because there's a subplot, like obviously the bank's been robbed. They're following, or they're trying not to get tailed, and they're saying, be careful, because obviously, and some of the guys are in the back of this van, and the other 2 are driving. There's two dudes driving. It says, "Are we being followed? Are we being followed?" And there's been a little time before, because obviously these 2 cops were seen on the news,
because they got suspended for something.
And he actually looks in the mirror and he actually sees him and he says, no, we're definitely not being, which is, you're thinking, wow, so where's this going to, and that's where you think where it's going to go, because he knows they are being followed.
Yeah.
He's clocked them.
Yeah.
But those in the back, the real nasty ones,
yeah,
they don't.
So, okay, so with this film, I've heard things about it because with the director, I think it's Craig S. Zala or something like that. You sort of know what, as Sharon was saying, you know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get something that's a little bit that's visceral.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that makes you go a couple of times. And I've heard a lot of stuff about how we talked about Rose in Wild Rose being a very unlikable character. I'm talking about how Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn in this film are deeply unlikable characters.
Yeah, they're not particularly endearing. I mean, I didn't dislike them in particular. I did dislike the one of the robbers with the mask that you never saw.
Oh yeah.
Played the part, never. Those 2 that never took them. I think in the credits, I've forgotten what they were called, but it was like The Voice, or they never really. So. Well,
in Bone Tomahawk, it was quite interesting because all the Indian, the savage creatures in Bone Tomahawk were played by really famous Native American Indian actors, and you think they were unrecognisable, but they had like the who's who of like Native American actors in there, but you just didn't recognise any of them.
No. Well, that's. I mean, maybe that was part of it, as I say.
That's what.
Voice or.
Yeah, this sort of famous person who just completely anonymous.
And I've heard stuff about it, but because people have talked about this one, said it's kind of problematic because it says things like it talks about. Obviously, they said that they're playing, and the director's playing a funny game because obviously Mel Gibson he's most famously been in the news for someone filming him doing stuff and like saying stuff and saying racist stuff against certain people groups. And apparently the incident in this film is about someone filming him saying stuff about certain people that it's in a racist manner. But I've heard that the film does this weird thing where it's almost asking you to sort of side with him.
Yeah.
And it's
there is a reason behind it. But I don't think there's too much in the way of that, because as I say, there are some, the black dudes in it and all things like that. And at the end, there was a sort of a bit of a thing with Mel Gibson and one of the dudes, the one just clocked him and says, "Oh, I know," and as also towards the end, something that happens like that, and this guy says when.
Okay. Yeah. I can see that you're getting close to each other. So we should just go talk to someone. You could talk to us about it fully. All right, but how many stars would you give it?
Okay, well, as I say, I really, really enjoyed it. Ticked all the boxes for me. I love the cinematography. I love the shots. I love the cinema shots. Liked the acting. Thought it was really good. But I can't quite give it 5 stars, but I can give it a solid 4.
All right.
Solid 4 stars for this one. It was really good. And if you like that sort of 70s gritty feel with a few nasty bits and a few surprises and where's this going, then it's well worth a watch. But it's an 18 certificate.
All right, cool. And now, Sharon, we come back to you. And you come back to a film that, much like we were waiting for you to come in here and we're stalling for you, it's much like we come to a film that it's like has been waited, we've been waiting for, and has been on the back burner for like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And this is a film that you've been talking about when we're like, we don't have space for it, we don't have space for it. But the day has come, the time has come for this movie. You want to tell us what it was that you saw on Netflix?
I saw on Netflix, it's randomly, it came up on my recommendations because I'd seen a film called Polar with Mad Mikkelsen,
Oh yeah.
which is a violent comic book film.
Yep.
And it said, because you saw that, you might like this. And this is a film called Billy Graham, An Extraordinary Journey. So how you can connect Mads Mikkelsen and Billy Graham, I had no idea, but Netflix did it. I don't know where, I probably would never have come across this without this random recommendation. So it was divine inspiration, obviously, from someone who thought she wants to see a film about the world's most famous evangelist. And actually, it was absolutely excellent. It's only about an hour long, and it's a documentary. And obviously, Billy Graham died last year at the age of 99.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably arguably the most famous evangelist that the world has ever known.
Yeah, people who have no interest. Yeah, people who have no interest in Christianity whatsoever know the name Billy Graham.
They know Billy Graham. They know who he is. Yeah. So this basically tells his life story in like this 1 hour slot. How he became the world's most famous evangelist. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to how he was training in the ministry, and he was doing tent missions in America, and he came to the attention of one man. He was moderately successful, people were coming to see him preach, and he was getting people who answered altar calls. An altar call is when someone says, if you believe what I've said and you want to make a personal commitment, then come forward and we'll pray with you. Yeah. And he was getting people responding to his altar calls. We knew that he had a gift for evangelism. Yeah. And then he caught the attention of William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper man.
Oh yeah, the guy who Citizen Kane is based on.
Citizen Kane is based on him. Yeah. And apparently he and his secretary went in incognito to a Billy Graham mission. Yeah. Just to see this young preacher that people have been talking about. And he had one telegram out to every single newspaper that he owned, and it said Puff Graham. And now a puff piece is normally when you promote someone. Yeah. So basically, William Randolph Hearst basically put the word out that he wanted them to really promote Billy Graham. Yeah. And so from then going to tent missions where he was speaking to hundreds, suddenly he was speaking to thousands and even tens of thousands. And it just went, his missionary work went through the roof, and this was in the late 1940s.
Did they give any explanation as to why Hearst wanted to Puff Graham, so to say?
No reason at all. He just sent out this telegram to all his newspapers that he owned, and all of them began running these massive stories, big double-page spreads, even in magazines that he owned, to promoting this, fiery, young, go-getter evangelist. And suddenly, he went stratospheric, and he was invited to the White House. Oh yeah. And Harry S. Truman was president then, and it's a fact that basically he went to the White House with every incumbent of the White House, from Truman right through to Barack Obama. Yeah. And he had personal time with each and every one of them. He was very good friends with Eisenhower and Nixon and Lyndon Johnson. He was personal friends. Yeah. And the reason why he was personal with a lot of them, because he never ever spoke about what they talked about. Yeah. And he was political. He was passionately political, Billy Graham. He used to read 7 newspapers every day, and he'd get the Times, the Telegraph, and the Mail sent from London every day that he'd read, because he wanted every sort of strata of British press, and he'd get the Washington Post, the New York Times, his local papers, but he would read the news avidly. Yeah. And he was passionately involved in politics, but he never commented. Oh. And he was asked to run for office and run for different posts, and he always said, no, I know exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that is preaching. That is my job.
So with this, is this documentary itself a bit of a puff piece? Is it a bit oh my God, he was so great! Oh my God! Oh.
Yeah, I think people have contributed from his work and his life. So all his children have contributed to this. He's got 5 children. And again, they've had a mixed life, so the fact that they've all ended up in Christian ministry is remarkable. One of his sons was a drug addict for a while and went off the rails. One of his daughters was married 4 times. Mm-hmm. Other ones have been through difficulties, but they all basically said no matter what we did, we knew that we could always go to him and speak to him. So it was a bit of a puff piece. Okay. in itself, but it was celebrating his life. But what I found out after, it references is the fact that he'd been to hundreds of countries around the world.
Yeah.
He'd preached to, you know, millions of people. But he came to Britain several times. And he was at Haringey Arena in 1954, and he was there for 3 months. And in that time, 2 million people went to see him.
Oh, wow.
And my mum was one of them, because I asked her, and she said yes, she saw Billy Graham 3 times. She saw him at Haringey, she saw him at Wembley Arena, and then at Portsmouth Guildhall, of all places.
Oh, wow. He was pretty much Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, he could just turn up anywhere. But they laid on special trains for the Haringey Arena shows, the missions, or whatever you call them. They're not shows really, but yeah, they had special trains because it was so popular. 2 million people went to see him in 3 months.
Yeah, because I know it's
just a phenomenon. He was a phenomenon.
They even had him. He even showed up in another Netflix show, The Crown. Like
yes.
the Billy Graham. There's a bit where he meets the Queen and everything like that. And the Queen actually requests a private audience with him and all that. And like you have the Church of England people going, why this American, this bashing of America, and everything like that. So,
because people think he was universally welcomed, but he wasn't. He had a really hard press in Britain when he first came.
I can
and then
imagine.
you know how was every sort of underdog. He said as soon as he started getting a hard time, people started going, "Don't you bully him," and they started supporting him even more. And it just went through his life how he was like he went to Russia when it was still the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
He was invited to South Africa, but since the 1950s he'd refused to do any mission work or do any crusades in a segregated audience. And he said in America he was like one of the first big names to say, "I will not preach to a segregated audience. You come equal or you don't come at all."
So with this, I'm guessing that there's no deep dive to try and find the dark secrets of Billy Graham and his secret glue sniffing habits.
I think people have tried, but I think he protected himself really well.
Yeah.
In the 1940s, he set up a committee who would oversee all his finances, so he would have no personal involvement with any finances involved in the mission.
Yeah.
And it was for him and his wife and his family that he had this team, a group of people who oversaw it since the 1940s.
Yeah.
This is before he became like this global phenomena. So I think he did protect himself, and I think that's not an accident. I think he was meant to be where he was, and I think he protected himself in a way that was honouring the role he had. But I think I found it really interesting as a Christian, and I thought to see someone who is a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
And I think we probably won't see his like in our lifetime again. I mean, I can name 4 or 5 evangelists, but I think the fact that you go to any member of the public and say, "Have you heard of this evangelist?" I think they just wouldn't have heard of them.
Yeah.
Whereas even people who had no connection with the church.
I've heard of Billy Graham, but you're exactly right. I couldn't tell anyone else who's an evangelist. No idea.
No, or even a well-known Christian would be like.
I mean, was Martin Luther King an evangelist, or was that different altogether?
He was a preacher, but
he was a preacher, but he's more known for being the civil rights.
Yeah. But I mean,
because the nature of who he was and the nature of what was going on at that time just meant that. Yeah.
He was friendly with Billy Graham.
Yeah.
So
I thought it really opened my, and I have gone on and since read a book about Billy Graham because I thought I want to know a bit more about him.
Yeah.
And I found him. Yeah, that even if you do dig deep, he had no scandals. There was no scandals connected to him.
Oh.
He won't see, but he would admit to everyone, I am not a saint. Ask anyone who knows me well, they'll know that I've got a temper, that I can be impatient, that he spent more time away from his family than he probably should have done.
Oh yeah.
Because he was like preaching for nearly all of his children's lives. His wife raised their 5 children.
Oh right.
He would just he'd be away for 3 months.
That's probably why they had 4 marriages and became drug addicts and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't a perfect life but he chose to serve God right over anything else. So people would say he wasn't.
Country music.
I was just thinking that. It's like an unexpected parallel with Wild Rose and Billy Graham. Unexpected.
He had this conflict, and he said, "No, I'm here on this earth to preach," and that's what he did his whole life long.
So how many stars would you give it?
I'd give 5 stars.
Ooh.
Because I think you got me. But maybe the only flaw in it would be the fact that it wasn't very critical.
Yeah.
But I thought, to me, it would just made me want to find out more, which I think is what you want from a documentary. So I would say, I'd give it a 5.
Cool, good stuff. All right, now we have 2 more things from the Netflix stable.
Oh,
we have Black Summer, from which we'll come back to you, Shaun. So quick fire questions. Black Summer, what's it about?
Okay, just basically it was like similar to be like a bit of a zombie series, you know.
Oh, I've heard of this. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard of this.
Yeah, well, I watched the whole. I watched
Is it like
everything.
Z Nation? Or I know it's Z Nation.
Well,
but
yeah, it's basically it starts the first episode. The first episode is really good. It sets you up like.
Okay, so this is a TV series.
TV series.
TV series, and in a typical Netflix for cinema where you have to have seen the whole season before you talk about. So you're talking about Black Summer season 1.
Yeah. Black Summer season 1. So yeah, it starts off basically this family. They're all lined up. The soldiers. Something's going on. There's some sort of well, basically the fast zombies like you see in the fast zombie movies. And obviously this.
I love that that's now a genre. The fast zombie movies.
Fast zombie movies. Yeah, I'm waiting to see some big fatty zombies, the big ones that can hardly move, real rumblers. Sort of the in-betweeners,
Yeah.
But I mean, I like my zombie stuff, and I do actually play this game, and you get the one game I played called Zombicide is you have got fatties which are harder to kill, but you've also got like speedy ones, and you've got like the normal draggy ones, and you're playing with I play it with some friends, and it's a good game. But anyway, back to this series. Yeah, it starts off. So there's this family. And basically they're in a line, the military are there, and then they sort of say, they get to the father and they're like, oh, can you just step over there a minute, is everything all right and all that, and they go and goes, have you got a gun? No, we've got nothing. And the little girl gets on the truck and they say, and then they obviously, the incident happens with the dad and the mother goes over and the truck drives off. So, and basically, so it's this woman who's all this thing, they say, oh yeah, they've gone to the stadium, they've all gone to the stadium. Husband gets killed, but she's going to have to get through the stadium. She's trying to basically get back to her child, and there's obviously other characters that you meet along the way.
Yeah.
Now what happens here is you've got loads of you've got like about 3 chapters in each episode. So in each episode, and it comes up, it goes like alone, the cafe, the diner, the school. So you've got these different
chapters, really
little chapters in each episode. So which comes up the little title, and it's all different people and different things happening. As I say, the diner you can imagine. There's people saying, and so all through it's this way, and you get these odd fast zombies, and then we're going to have to get some weapons. How we could get some weapons, and it gradually progresses. They go through all these different. They go into a school, they go into a factory.
So does every episode follow this woman as she's trying to find her child?
Not all the time, it follows different people, but the basic premise is this woman, she's like the linchpin that you meet. So all these things that happened in the previous series, eventually the people or the characters in each of these episodes, towards the end, they all sort of come together through different paths. So they all, as I say, you've got the loner, this guy. There's a lot of running in this. There's lots and lots of people.
I would imagine with fast zombies, you would have to.
And but there's one episode alone. It's just basically this guy who's on his own, and he's being chased by this one particular zombie, and he manages to what he thinks is escape in a supermarket like that, and he's like, oh well, and then the zombie comes in and he's like looking for him and stuff. So, they're like hunter zombies, if you will.
So,
It reminds me of Zombieland when you say that. First rule of Zombieland, cardio.
Cardio, yeah. When you said that, I was thinking cardio as well.
That's the best. They need a lot of cardio in this. That's the best part of Zombieland. I'm not a major fan of Zombieland. But I do like the double taps.
Yeah. Always double tap.
But so this sort of happens, and I don't know. It was very much hit and miss. There were some bits which I really, really liked, and there were other bits which didn't really particularly enjoy.
It sounds like
some bits that annoyed me.
Well, because of logic issues.
We
should have a section of this show where we go Sean's logic issue of the week.
Issues,
Movie
not
logic.
So much logic issues, but there's I'll tell you one of the episodes which takes place in the school, and there's some real nasty kids. You know what I mean? And you've got some of the groups got together, so you've got the woman and you've got the soldier, and it's like he just wants to say, let's get rid of these kids because they're not particularly nice. And she's like, no, don't, we can't, they're only children, blah 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 blah. And of course, fate mistake. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't in a situation like that. In a situation like that,
it's where's life or death.
Give him the gun. No, don't give him the gun, boy.
Okay, so with this, you're going through like all these different bits, and so it sounds like it it sounds like it has a little bit of an anthology feel to it. Like, we're talking about Love, Death and Robots, where each one is kind of a little bit separate, but it sounds like this sort of mixes an overarching story with this sort of, we're going to tell you a story about this person, we're going to tell you a story about this person, now we're going to do a zombie chase movie, and now we're going to do like, a siege movie, or now we're going to... All right, cool. So overall, what did you think about it?
Okay, well, as I say, I mean, there were moments I enjoyed, there were moments that I didn't, moments you think, oh yeah, that was really good, and moments I didn't. And there's not particularly loads of action. I think it was done very, very cheaply. It's the same because the locations are very much, there's like 3 which I'm pretty sure they've tried to make look. I'm pretty sure they might, And as I say, there's so much running in it. There's so much running, and it's not.
Could you compare it to Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead?
No, it's a different, totally different.
Not the same.
It's not the same. Not the same scale. No, I mean, as I say, there is a lot of running. There's a lot of running. I mean, there's some good characters.
So is it more like a 28 Days Later type vibe?
Not even like a 28 Days Later.
Not like a Kingdom.
I would say it's a bit like, probably, if you could cross it. Let's have a look. What zombie films could you cross this with? Probably you could cross it. Well, all of them are sort of in there because they're the supermarket.
Train to Busan.
You've got not half as good.
Any
as
of the Romero-esque type.
I would not say Romero-esque at all. No, because the zombies are just really, really fast.
We're trying.
Okay, cool. So below all of those. Below all of those.
So think of a zombie movie and then just halve it.
I have to say, basically, because for the few episodes that I did enjoy, but I thought there was too much running around, and there was 2 episodes in particular which I thought, no, these don't work. How would you do it? Especially the bit where they go for weapons.
Okay.
I was just like, nah. So anyway, but I don't know. I'm really I'm struggling with this one. I would like to say, I think I'm going to have to say a 3, just purely 3.
All right,
just
3.
Give 3. Yeah.
3 being nice. That's
3 being
Shaun
nice.
being nice.
Yeah.
Okay, but how many episodes are there?
I think there's 8.
8.
So it's compact.
Yeah.
All right, and now we round this all off with Star Trek Discovery Season 2.
Season 2.
This
Just finished.
This is something that I have a friend who has been watching it, and he keeps going, have you watched it? Have you watched it? And I've been like, no, I'm waiting until it's finished so I can watch the whole thing in one go.
I haven't watched the whole thing. I've watched about the first 4.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the latest Star Trek incarnation, because we never reviewed Star Trek Discovery Season 1.
No, we didn't. We didn't do that, yeah.
So basically it's the latest incarnation, and it's set between the original series and Enterprise, which was like the prequel almost.
Yeah, with Scott
Captain
Bakula
Archer and all that lot. Yeah, so it's set between those, and the first season very much deals with a Klingon war.
Yep.
How an incident in the first episode sparks a Klingon war, and the consequence of that, it ripples through the whole season. And the principal character is a human female, but she was raised by Vulcans, and namely, she was raised as the half sister or stepsister of Spock, Mr. Spock. So she was raised by his mother and father as
a Vulcan, essentially.
As a Vulcan, effectively. Yeah. So she's human with Vulcan characteristics and personality and traits. But her family were killed by a Klingon raiding party on their sort of base where they were scientists studying a supernova. So the first season deals with the sort of Klingon War and that's after effects, and they find out that there's a parallel universe where everyone who exists in the universe that we know also exists in the other universe, and some similar things happen to them, and they sort of interact with the same people, but they are different. Mm-hmm. And some people have crossed over between the 2 universes, which adds complications to different things. But that's the first season. So this is the second season. So we've moved on from that, and Michael, her name is Michael.
Yeah.
And she is a commissioned officer on USS Discovery.
Discovery, which is this new experimental ship.
An experimental ship that uses like a spore drive, which is like this organism type thing that can transcend space and time.
Essentially, pretty much the spore drive is you can teleport an entire ship.
This was what with the first few episodes. That's what I had issues with because of the time frame that it was taken in. I just thought that was far too advanced for that time.
And you can't understand why, if this was such a super duper ship, it was never referred to in any of the other Star Treks. But that is explained in this season why we don't know about it. Well, we don't
Oh,
know
okay,
about
cool.
Oh,
Because
right,
any
okay.
of these people.
because
It's explained.
because a problem I always had with Discovery was that it's kind of like when you have like when you had Star Wars Rogue One.
Yeah.
When you had Rogue One, you kind of knew, well, you knew at the end of the film all these people are going to have to die because
Yes.
we've never heard about them anywhere else.
Yeah.
And especially because it rolls exactly into the first Star Wars movie. You're going to be
Yeah.
like, they would have, if these people were the
Yeah.
heroes,
If there
they
was
would
one
have
left over,
mentioned
we
them.
know that person.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you kind of knew, okay, they're all going to have to die.
Because that's at the
And-
back of your mind the whole time you're watching it, thinking, why have we never heard of this? Why does
Yeah.
Spock ever talk about his sister?
Yeah.
And why don't they have holographic messages anymore?
Well, the thing
Because
is,
this is what they have. This have like instead of having just this on the screen, your little bot like your FaceTime, they have holographic that
Yeah.
beamed into your private quarters. And we're thinking, why is there's this technology that hasn't existed in the universe?
yeah.
But by the end of the season, that is explained.
I
Season
just
one.
Season 2.
No, I just figured that essentially I'm like, okay, this spore drive is going to have to be destroyed,
Yeah.
which means that nobody is going to have to know about it afterwards. So essentially, I don't have much hope for this for the spore drive.
Well, I think it's going to set. I think season 3 is going to be interesting because it's a completely different. I think it's going to take us into strange new worlds
Okay,
and galaxies that we haven't seen before.
yeah, but because
Maybe species.
I'm not going to use a split infinitive, but we may go somewhere.
Maybe species 1879 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the fluidic universe. I mean,
Well,
that's
no-
the Voyager one. Not Voyager. Voyager.
but well, the thing about it is that I know that the first I've seen the first season. The first season ends pretty much with Discovery meeting the Enterprise.
Yes, and you meet Captain Pike.
You meet Captain Pike, he's the original captain of the Enterprise before Kirk.
Yeah, because
Yes.
there is actually in the original Star
cage.
Trek. There's an episode. Yeah, the bird cage. I think there's also called the cage. That's one of them where he's actually in it.
That's
Yeah.
reference. You see clips of that part in season 2.
Do you?
Yeah, because
that's-
you
that's
hear
the
part
one,
of his
yeah.
story.
Yeah. So,
right, okay.
so I'm because they had problems with doing a prequel too, because obviously nowadays the technology is so much better, so you can make
Yeah.
you can make this show look way better than the original Star Trek ever
That's
looked.
right, and the uniforms because the uniforms are that bit sharper, and suddenly
Yeah.
when they have like old school uniforms, you're thinking, you have not got the same tailor.
Yeah,
have you?
yeah. So, but then again, Star Trek
So they've
does.
tweaked. They have tweaked with a lot of things.
Yeah, but Star Trek loves playing with its parallel universes
Yeah.
and its different timelines and all that kind of stuff. So they can always come up with some doohickey
There's a-
thingamajigger and be like, yeah, guess what? That's why everything is different.
So there's the big sort of mystery in season 2 is this thing called the Red Angel. There's this sort of there's these spatial weird things happen where this Red Angel appears, and that happens throughout this. The Discovery goes to each site of this sort of Red Angel appearances, and they're trying to work it all out. And basically, these are like crumbs that lead us down the rabbit hole that is sort of what is at the end of the season finale. So I think you just have to persevere with it to get to the end, and then you'll go, oh, and a lot of things actually that we'd be thinking, I don't understand why no one's actually ever mentioned any of these things before. It actually, they do have an answer for it at the end of season 2. So I think you have to persevere to more or less the very last episode.
Okay, so and this is one
Is
of
there
the.
much action in it? Is there much in the way of like confrontation and shooting and battles?
Not
and
so much
things?
as if when it was in the Klingon War,
Right.
but there is conflict, there is fighty, blowy-uppy things.
Is that? Oh, cool. And,
And
do
there
you
is-
see any
yeah.
other races like Romulans again? Are they?
You don't meet the Romulans.
What, have you seen all of season 1 or just the first 4 episodes?
Just about first 4 episodes.
Oh, of season 1.
Yeah, of season 1.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah.
So, I
Okay.
mean, that's why I can't count because
Yeah.
You
I did start to like it and then gradually I was thinking...
Yeah.
Well, I think
You
so.
do meet some classic Star Trek original
Yeah.
series aliens. You meet a
Right.
couple of those through this, and then there's one intriguing. He's called Saru. He's quite,
Oh,
he's a
yeah.
long, lanky.
Yeah,
and you do
yeah.
meet his. You go to his planet.
Played by Doug Jones. He's good.
Yeah,
He's
and
good.
so there's some good
Well,
weirdy things.
and also it's the first Star Trek series that seems to actually follow like a sort of like it's an overarching story.
Yeah.
Because usually it's quite episodic. Like they have
Yes.
it's Adventure of the Week, Adventure of the Week.
Yes.
And I think Discovery
It's
seems to
steered
be the
away
first.
from that. It's definitely much more of a story arc
Yeah.
rather than Alien of the Week,
Yeah,
weird head thing of the week
yeah. Ooh, there's another actor with a weird mask on.
with a weird thingy sticking out. They say they still look human, but there's just a extra ear or something.
All right, but all in all, what would you say about this?
I would say I don't think it's as gripping as it wants it to be. So I would give it a 3, but it's got potential, I think, to do good things in the future. Then I'm looking forward to the next season because I think there's potential in the way it ended.
Yeah.
To sort of to explore strange new galaxies and to do,
All
other
right.
things without a split infinitive.
And if you were going to compare it season 1 to season 2, what would you say? Would you say season 2 upped it from season 1, or it was kind of like a letdown from season 1, or?
No, I think it has been upping its game, and I think it's been looking at it has been answering. It's been looking at, okay, these are the questions that we need to answer, and it's set about trying to answer them.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay.
yes.
It's worth persevering.
I think it's worth persevering
because I
right
just
to the
got
very end.
toward the first few I saw. I thought I liked the first episode and probably the second because I remember with the Klingons they're on that thing, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
And, I think Anson Mount does do Captain Pike very well. And so there are some things you can. You've done honour to the previous incarnations, but you've made it your own. I think it works.
Yeah, I was happy for Anson Mount because before that, the most high-profile thing he'd done was the Inhumans, and that died a death.
He was very good in Hell on Wheels.
Never saw that.
I watched a couple of series of that. But if you played the Swede in the Hell on Wheels, Hell on Wheels, that's what the duck.
I know what's his name. Is it Heyerdahl? Something.
The Swede. But he was funny. He was the one in that, and because I've watched a few of those.
I can't remember his name. Yes, I can't remember his name. But
that was okay to start with.
I think it's Christopher Heyerdahl.
Oh, well, yeah. But I think they can sometimes go on a bit too.
Yeah,
too
he should
much.
die 2
seasons
sooner.
Yeah, and it should have been like 1 season.
All right, cool. I never even heard of that show. All right, so all that's left now is to say who has won this week. And now, so between this, the winner this week is. Can I have a drum roll, please?
Ooh, that's a drum thunder.
Ooh, thunder! By a very short margin, Netflix.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
a 0.3.
But,
0.3.
I mean, was there more Netflix than there was?
There was more
So,
Netflix.
I mean,
I have to admit, we did 5 Netflix this week and we did 4 cinema. And up until we spoke about the final Netflix thing, cinema was ahead. So if we'd only allowed 4, if we'd strictly done it 4, it would have been cinema. So it's kind of a draw this week. It's kind of a draw this week, which
is what? Which is good.
But I mean, to be honest with you, it's a good week because nothing we saw this week went lower than a 3.
No,
we didn't hate anything.
Good,
Yeah,
so
we didn't hate
been
anything.
good week.
Although I have to admit, Greta was close. Greta was on the bubble.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I couldn't. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a highly histrionic film. I mean, if you guys see it, I'd love to know what you guys thought about it because, as I said, I did not enjoy watching it. Right, cool. Anyway, that's all from us here from the Isle of Wight. We will be back. I'll be back in the Midlands next week. You guys will be back in a room.
Yeah.
There'll be less 80s hits playing in the background.
Sure.
And that will be a time when we would all have seen, well, 2 of us at least would have seen Avengers
I'm
Endgame.
anticipating to see Endgame, I will anticipate that I will see it.
Yes, so by that time, I mean, we will probably have seen it, we would have recovered, we might have seen it again, we would either be filled with rage or squealing with, oh my God!
It was worth all of these years of sticking it out.
Yes, I'm expecting that next week cinema should win, but
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
only because I don't expect anything else to be released in the cinema.
Oh, it'd be like tumbleweed running through the cinema.
Yeah, it'll be like Las Vegas, like there's just desert and there's just this big thing in the middle of the desert just going, yes, look at me. But this is going to be good. I'm looking forward. I actually find it funny how in everything that's been said about Avengers Endgame, nobody's really spoken about Thanos that much.
No.
No one has said anything about Thanos. It's like you could almost forget that Josh Brolin is in this film. But looking forward to see it.
Yeah.
Right. Until then, all that's left to say is goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
We will see you all next week. Thank you for listening.